Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shay. For those that are new, welcome. A lot of what I share on my channel is just what my life looks like after having weight loss surgery and losing 100 pounds. But I don't just focus on like weight loss only. I share a lot just about my life, what I enjoy doing, what I'm learning, how I'm growing, all of that fun stuff. So today I wanted to share just some basic food prep / meal prep things that I do just in my normal life. I have to do some food / meal prepping today, and I thought I would take you along with some of the recipes that I tend to make on a weekly basis. I do see meal prepping different than food prepping. How I see meal prepping is more when you actually create a whole meal that you prep. So like those are like the fancy looking bowls that you have like the same thing for days at a time. Food prepping, I see it a little bit different, where you're preparing food to either mix and match or to prepare for a meal later on. So I would say that I tend to fall into more of the food prepping category because I don't really like having the same thing every day. Certain things I'll have kind of in a routine way, but when it comes to meal prepping and eating the same meal every single day, that's just really boring to me. So I'll show you kind of the combination that I'm talking about as we go along. I think the biggest thing that has helped me a lot when it comes to food and meal prepping is making sure that I have the containers for it. And I know that sounds kind of silly in some ways, but I feel like for myself, I also have attention deficit disorder. I talk about that on here as well. But if I don't have things super easy, or if like there's even just one barrier to entry, like it makes it a lot more challenging for me to push through that barrier. So one of those barriers I've found for myself is not having proper containers that I like to use. I have a wide variety of containers I like to use, and really it's just taken time for me to find what works with my cooking style, what I like. So I have lots of different sizes and shapes, square ones, round ones. I have smaller ones with lids. All of these have lids with them as well. I just didn't bring them out. I like using all glass containers just because I try to limit plastic, and it's nice because these can reheat, these can freeze. So I love using glass containers, and that's what you'll see me cooking with today. So one of the first things I'm gonna prep today is what I call my cinnamon roll oatmeal. And I'm gonna be doing 2 of them, one for me, one for my husband, that I'll just be able to store in the fridge. But again, you can customize this. You could make 100 of them if you have the storage space for that. These do require being put in the fridge because we're gonna use Greek yogurt. If you wanted to, you could forego that part and just get the other pieces in place and store it in your pantry. But because I'm only gonna do 2, I kind of wanna have it just all set, ready to go. So all I have to do is pour on boiling water and then I'm good to go. So let's get to it. So in each of these, I'm gonna do a 1/3 cup of quick oats. I love using Bob's Red Mill quick oats. They're gluten-free, they're just like good quality, and they're an Oregon company. So that's kind of fun because I live in Oregon. So these containers, I do find that sometimes I spill, so I'll just I'll do it over here. So here we go, not too bad. See, I do well under pressure. We're gonna get a 1/3 cup in here. And I just find this is so much more efficient to do stuff like this way rather than having to do it individually each time, which I still will do that, but when I can get ahead and kind of prep stuff, it just makes it so much easier. Then what makes these cinnamon roll oatmeal is I'm gonna do quite a bit of cinnamon. I love this. It's just great value organic ground cinnamon. I have found that I'm kind of particular about cinnamon. Like every cinnamon kind of has its unique flavor to it, and I really like this one for whatever reason. So I've tried other ones and it's like, that just doesn't taste quite right. I don't know. So I really like this one. A lot of the way that I cook, you'll find, is I do a lot of things by not measuring and just kind of eyeballing. So that's what I did here with the cinnamon. Just kind of do as much as you want. And then I'm just gonna do a little bit of salt. I'm using pink Himalayan salt, mainly just because it's pink. I don't know, I think it's cute. I'm just kind of doing like a healthy dash. You don't want to leave out the salt in this. It's like whenever you're doing sweet stuff, the salt really just enhances the flavor of it. So it's something that like if I don't put it in, I really can tell a difference. So for what that's worth. So then now that I have these in here, I just kind of shake them all up so that everything combines. My left hand doesn't work as good. I'm gonna move to my right. All right, so now it's all shaken up and ready to go. And then what makes this also a cinnamon roll oatmeal is this Oikos 000 vanilla Greek yogurt. And this is really fun because this kind of is like the cream cheese element of a cinnamon roll in this oatmeal. So I'm gonna put a few healthy dollops in there. Again, you can totally measure this, but I typically don't. I just kind of do 2 to 3 kind of big spoonfuls. And that's another thing I love doing is just creating recipes with flavor profiles that I really like, because like I love cinnamon rolls. I will still have cinnamon rolls, but just in smaller amounts because like I don't feel super great if I have like a lot of cinnamon rolls. So I love the flavors of it. And this is a recipe where it's an easy one to create those similar flavors. My corgis are here and ready to lick the spoon. So we have to do that. Corgi tax. All right, now that our corgi tax is paid, we'll just kind of finish these up. I'm using light sugar-free original syrup. You could use honey to sweeten it up a little bit. You could even do a little bit of coconut sugar, which is a great alternative to brown sugar. It's lower on the glycemic index. So if you're trying to manage your sugars, that's another great alternative. But I like just the sugar-free syrup. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of that. Or if you don't like your oatmeal as sweet, you can totally leave that out. Now these cups are ready to go to where when I want some cinnamon roll oatmeal, all I'll have to do is boil some water, pour it on, mix it up, let it sit, and I'll have my cinnamon roll oatmeal. So another easy snack slash dessert that I like to prep ahead of time is sugar-free pudding. So I already did this last night because I was wanting pudding, but it's really easy. All I do for my pudding is I use non-fat Fairlife milk just because it has a higher protein count and I'm trying to be protein forward in a lot of the meals and snacks that I make. And then my ratio is I like to do 7 cups of non-fat Fairlife milk, 2 smaller packets of chocolate fudge sugar-free pudding mix. And I don't always find this one everywhere. Like it doesn't taste the same if you just use chocolate. It has to be the chocolate fudge for me. That's the one that I like. So I do 2 of those smaller packets, and then I do 1 of the bigger packets of just the sugar-free vanilla, and it is so good. Like I love this. So I'll have this if I'm trying to get more protein in, if I want something a little sweeter, and I just stored it in these containers. But sometimes what I'll do if I have more room in the fridge, I'll actually portion out in mugs and just like eat it from there. But you can scoop it after the fact or before the fact, however you eat your pudding is cool with me. Another thing that I love to food prep is just canned chicken breast and making like a chicken salad. You can also do this with like a tuna salad, or even like I've seen canned salmon, you could do it with that. But I love having this in the fridge for those days where I'm like, I don't know what I want for lunch. I kind of have to do something quick. I love just having toasted sourdough with some of this concoction on top. So you can do it as a sandwich, you can dip carrots or celery in it, you can dip crackers in it. So it's just a very like easy and functional food to have on hand with a lot of protein in it. So I'm just gonna open this can and drain it. And I'm gonna just dump the chicken breast in the container that I'm gonna use to mix everything and store it. That's another thing. Like I love, if I don't have to dirty dishes, I don't want to, because I don't wanna have to clean them. So this is great because you just do it all in one. You're gonna mix it and store it all in the same place. So then I like to just kind of shred it up because it makes it mix a bit easier, and it goes on my sourdough toast a bit easier when I do it like this. So I'm just gonna kind of mash it up. So at this point, you probably have been looking at my cute apron going, that is so cute. How do I get one? Well, I have good news for you. I actually sell them in my merch shop and they're like really good quality. I have a few different designs. So if you want to match with me or get another apron with a different design, I will put a link in my description for that. All right, we are all shredded up here. We're shredded. And now I'm just gonna add my accoutrements that I like in my chicken salad. The cool thing with this is you can customize it. People get like crazy, which I'm all about getting crazy with chicken salad. People put like grapes, raisins, craisins, walnuts, all this like fancy stuff, which like cool, you do you. Mine is a little more simple than that. So I just do a little bit of mayo and I just kind of, again, eyeball it. I just am gonna do like a little drizzle. Mayo's another thing that's really easy to make from scratch. I just don't use mayo a lot, so it can go bad quicker than store-bought and shelf-stable. But if you use a lot of mayo, it's really easy to make. Just look up a recipe and it's pretty easy to do. And then I'm gonna put some of this aioli garlic mustard sauce in. You could also do regular mustard. You could do Dijon mustard. This one from Trader Joe's is just so good. I use it in a lot of things. So I'm just gonna put a little dollop of that. And then fun fact, I don't like pickles, but in my chicken salad, I do like a little bit of sweet relish. It just kind of like adds a bit more texture and a little sweetness. I don't know, it's really good. So in my, like normally I wouldn't put relish on anything, but in my chicken salad, I do like a little bit. And then the final touch, I love green onion in everything pretty much, but especially my chicken salad. I also really like red onion. If you dice it up really finely, that's really good in here. But I'm just gonna cut up some slices and put it all around. This is actual green onion from my garden, which is kind of cool. So I'm gonna get chopping. All right, now that it's all cut up, I'm just gonna mix it all together and then it's all ready to go. I noticed that when I do it this way, it's a little harder to make sure everything's like evenly distributed. And for me, like it's not a big deal, but let's say that I was making this for the queen. What I might do instead is mix all of the accoutrements, so the mayo, mustard, relish, green onion in a separate bowl and then evenly distribute it to mix it together. So if you're somebody where that kind of bothers you, where you want it to be very even, that's another method you could use. Or if you're gonna have the queen over, another method as well. So I'm gonna put this in the fridge. And like I said, I just love this over toasted sourdough toast. It's good as is. You could decorate it with some arugula or spinach on top. You could do some tomatoes. Oh, I've done that before where I've mixed tomatoes in, that's good too. But this is just my classic chicken salad. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna make are oatmeal craisin protein cookies. And these are so good. I've made them twice now, so I feel like I have it pretty much down. The macros on these are incredible, like as far as just being a very balanced cookie, they're so good. And I've never been one to like really love oatmeal raisin cookies, but I don't know, in my old age, I guess I like them now, but these are so good. And I feel like working with protein powders in recipes, you can usually kind of taste that it's there, and that's why I don't often cook a lot of times with protein. But when I do, I always use ProCare Health's protein. It just has like a really good flavor, and in these cookies, it is so good. So that's the protein that I'm using. It's their vanilla protein. And if you want to use discount code SHAY10, you can get 10% off this amazing protein powder. So I'll put a link in the description for that. So I'm gonna get all of the dry ingredients in here first into my little mixer. So first it's gonna be 2 cups of regular old oats. I don't think that's what they're called. Old-fashioned rolled oats from Bob's Red Mill. Again, I like their oats a lot. So I'm gonna do 2 cups in here. And then I'm gonna do 1 cup of ProCare's vanilla protein powder. And then I'm gonna do a 1/4 cup of coconut sugar. You can also do brown sugar or even just granulated sugar. But again, I'm trying to give these a little less sugar. And so this is just a great alternative where the glycemic index is a bit lower. So I'm gonna do a 1/4 cup of that. And if you've never seen coconut sugar before, I don't wanna tip it and spill it, but it really looks a lot like brown sugar. So it has a lot of the similar qualities that you would find in brown sugar, kind of more of like a richer depth of flavor. So just in case you don't know what coconut sugar is, I just learned about it a few years ago. So in case you're wondering. And then I'm gonna do some cinnamon. Again, I'm just kind of eyeballing this, maybe like that much. I don't know, maybe like a 1/2 tablespoon, roughly. I am gonna measure this. We're gonna do a teaspoon of baking powder to help kind of fluff them up, help them rise to the occasion. And then it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Put that in. And then a 1/2 cup of dried cranberries. And I didn't realize like they're called, or Craisins is the brand. but Ocean Spray is the brand. I don't know, dried cranberries, I'm using the 50% less sugar. I'm gonna do a half a cup in here as well, which is pretty much the rest of the bag. So I'm just gonna do the rest of the bag. So those are all the dry ingredients. I'm just gonna stir them together to combine. And then we have our wet ingredients. So 2 eggs that I'm gonna crack in this bowl. Y'all ready for a one-hander, a one-hand wonder? That sounded dirty, oops. All right. And then I would say, again, I kind of eyeball my vanilla. You don't want to go overboard with vanilla or it can kind of make you sick. I'm going to do probably equivalent to like a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm going to mix it all together. And then I have 1 stick or half a cup of melted unsalted butter. I love using Kerrygold butter. It just seems like a much higher quality butter. Part of what I think creates such a good richness of flavor in these cookies is actually browning the butter a little bit. So that's where you put it on the stove, you melt it, and you just have to be careful because you don't want your butter to burn, but you kind of get this like goldeny color and it just adds a bit more of a richer flavor. So I browned the butter, and this is always the hard part, to be honest. The last couple times that I did this, I kind of messed it up, but I'm trying to combine the warm butter with the eggs, and it's really easy to scramble them because the butter's hot, but I tried to this time let the butter cool down a little bit. Both times I tempered it, which is when you add a little bit of the hot butter in with the eggs, but I think I just did it too quick and I was in a rush, so they did get a little scrambly, which isn't ideal, but the cookies still turned out really good. So if you do that and it turns out a little scrambly, that's how the last 2 times have been, and it was fine. So I'm gonna attempt to temper the eggs and then add it in. So let's see if we can do it this time. So essentially what tempering is you're just trying to bring, because the butter's hot and the eggs are cold or cooler usually, you're just trying to bring the eggs up to temperature so they don't scramble. That's kind of the ideal situation. So you do tempering a lot, like when you're making like homemade puddings, custards, things like that. So let's see, I'm gonna see if I can do it this time. I think this is the point where I'm like, oh yeah, it looks good. Let me just like add the whole thing in, but I think the butter was too hot and that's what made it scrambly. So I'm not doing that this time. I'm just trusting the process and going with it. If you don't want to use butter, you could also do coconut oil, I think would be a really good alternative in here. Oh, this is such a good temper, you guys. I'm so proud of myself. This is so beautiful. Yay! Look at that, all smooth. No scrambled eggs here. All right, now that we have this beautifully combined with no scrambled eggs, I'm gonna slowly pour it into my dry mixture as it's stirring, so that way we can get it all combined. All right, we're all mixed together. Look at how good. It's kind of crumbly right now, which is totally fine. We're gonna just kind of combine it into little cookies to put on the cookie tray. The other thing too, in the first time that I made these, I put the cranberries in after the wet ingredients, but then the second time I did them with the dry ingredients, and it did make a difference where I felt like it combined a lot better. So put the cranberries in with the dry before adding the wet ingredients in, and you'll be solid. So I'm gonna attempt to make 16 cookies on here. Then 2 will be equal to like a serving size with how I did the recipe. And the cool thing is, because there's not flour, like these aren't a cookie that will like rise and expand a lot, you can put them pretty close together, which is helpful for our pan real estate that we have here. So I'm just gonna try to make them equal. We'll do the best we can, but really it's just about forming a ball and then kind of squishing them down. And they don't have to be perfect, you know, just cute, which look how cute. So I'm just gonna keep rolling. I think the thing with cooking is people get really afraid of it. Like it can feel a bit intimidating, where it feels like if I don't do it right the first time, my life is over. I don't know. But like, I know that a lot of people get nervous to cook because, you know, there's a lot of room for error and making mistakes. But that's how I've learned to cook, is by making those mistakes. Or, you know, there's definitely been several meals that we've had in our house where I'm like, I'll never make that again, or I won't make it that same way again. And so if you're newer to cooking, like it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to try things and go, oh, that's not very good. Like, now you know. The knowledge builds over time. So like things that feel really natural and normal for me when it comes to cooking, it didn't always feel like that. It took time to kind of learn and practice and experiment. And, you know, I think that's also what can feel intimidating is a lot of times I know I'll watch, you know, chefs that have been professional chefs for 30 plus years. And it's like, of course, like their knowledge is going to be different than what mine is, but that's okay. Like there's nobody to compete with in cooking unless you go on like Chopped or something. But if you're not looking to go on Chopped, it's like there's no competition. Like you can just make it be whatever you want and it doesn't have to be like such a big deal. So that's how I approach cooking, and that's why I tend to really enjoy it, because I'm not looking to like impress anybody or compete with anybody. It's like I just love food and I want to make good food that helps my body feel good. And yeah, so that's why I cook. If you're nervous about trying to cook, like I totally get it and it makes a lot of sense, but just know like nobody's perfect. Like we're all doing the best we can. It's okay to try things and then make adjustments, or if you make a mistake, it's okay. It'll be all right. Another thing, if you don't want these as cookies, they would actually make really good granola bars too, where you could just lay it in like a loaf pan and press it down really flat and kind of combine it all. And then after you bake them, cut them up into like more rectangles. That would be really good. Or even just taking this mixture and not rolling it up, but just kind of spreading it on a pan just to bake it. And then you could use it for like homemade granola, like on top of your yogurt, or just to eat by a handful, however you want to go about it. So that's what I love also about recipes is like you can customize them and make them work for your lifestyle and what makes sense to you. Like for me, I love cookies. Like, I don't know, I love the shape. I have good associations with cookies to where it's like, yeah, this makes sense for me. But especially I know sometimes there can be like trigger foods. Like if you've had issues with cookies where maybe that's a trigger food for you, where you've just decided that it's best if you don't really have cookies, then it's like you can still have all of the good nutrients and good ingredients, but just have it in a different way, right? Like I said, doing granola or granola bars or whatever. So sometimes I'll get in my head of thinking that like, oh, like just because certain things are triggers or I don't like them, that means I couldn't make that X, Y, and Z recipe. But it's like, no, you totally can. It's just making it more custom to like what you like. This last cookie is always kind of hard because it's like where all of the remaining cranberries lie, and so sometimes it can be kind of hard to form it, but I believe in me, I believe in you. All right, that's gonna have lots of cranberries, but I don't want any cranberry to go wasted, so I'm just gonna put some on top here. We did it, 16 cookies. So then I'm gonna put this in a preheated oven at 350 for 12 minutes. You can do 10 to 12 minutes depending on how your oven is, the altitude, all that. But I found that 12 minutes is the perfect amount of time for these ones. So I'm gonna get them in the oven for 12 minutes. So full transparency, these are the cookies that I made yesterday. I was gonna pull the whole, oh, and then they're done, but I don't wanna lie to you guys, okay? I just want a cookie and the other ones are baking. They're not gonna be ready for another 12 minutes. So here I am eating my ones from yesterday. Cookie dance, cookie dance, cookie dance, cookie dance. So good. A lot of things that I've tried where it's like protein balls or other like protein things, I just am always so hesitant to try it because it's like, it just sometimes doesn't taste right. These taste so good. ProCare's protein is so yummy. And it just really enhances the flavor of the cookies where I feel like other protein powders can like take away from the flavor. This enhances it. So go get you some protein ProCare. Use discount code SHAY10, get 10% off. It's so good. All right, so this next recipe, full transparency, I've never made it before, but I've always wanted to make egg bites. And I know Starbucks is like famous for their egg bites. And so I just looked up a recipe and we're gonna try it. The biggest thing that sets apart Starbucks egg bites versus your grandma's egg bites, I don't know what we're comparing it to, is they use cottage cheese. And I don't really like cottage cheese, but in full transparency again, I don't really feel like I've tried it enough with things. I didn't grow up eating cottage cheese. I know how other people have it, but I don't know, like it kind of, I do a lot of yogurt, but not, I don't know, cottage cheese is just a bit foreign to me. So I felt like this would be a good recipe to expand my taste buds a little bit and use it in a way that I think I'll really enjoy it. So we're gonna try it. This recipe calls for 9 eggs and 16 ounces of cottage cheese. So I'm gonna do that first. So 16 ounces is half of this container. So hopefully we'll like it and then we can use the other half of the container for another round. So the other thing with recipes, I think this one had you do like bacon and stuff, which it all sounded good. But what I love is like getting recipes for kind of the basic components. Like I didn't know what the ratio should be between the cottage cheese and eggs, but I'm gonna add my own stuff to it. And I'm gonna just keep this one pretty simple. I'm gonna just do ham, cheese, and green onion mixed in, and then fill it in these tray pans and we'll see how it goes. All right, it's mixed up pretty good. I'm just gonna add some salt and pepper, and I'm gonna do quite a bit because this is quite a bit of eggs and cottage cheese, so we wanna make sure we season that up really good. You know what, since we're just kind of playing around with this recipe, I'm gonna throw in a little bit of garlic powder. I just feel like that'll be good. I bet everything but the bagel seasoning would probably be good too, but I'm just gonna try basic simple for this one. I'm gonna spray these tins with just 100% pure avocado oil spray. I just don't have cupcake holders or silicone, which I normally like to bake with silicone. I even considered I have silicone molds for donuts. I'm like, that could be kind of funny, but I'm like, I'm just gonna try to keep it classic here, but I do prefer using silicone when I have it. I'm also going to dice up the ham and the green onions and then put the diced ham in first with the green onions with the cheese and then pour the egg mixture on top. I found like when I'm doing quiches or things in that way, that order tends to work pretty well. So I'm gonna do that. I'm just eyeballing the ham. I'm just gonna use this much. All right, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of ham on each one, kind of spread it out a little bit so it's not all in one clump. If you're tracking macros and stuff, you can definitely be more precise than I am, but this is just kind of more of a trial where I just want to see how the flavors go together. All right, I think I got it pretty evenly in there. I'm gonna add the green onions next. Then I'm going to do some cheese. I'm just using finely shredded Colby Jack. Just giving my mixture one more stir, and I think I'm gonna try to do this by scooping it in with like a ladle, and we'll see how that goes. At first, when I was looking at the recipe, I'm like, that's interesting. Why wouldn't you do 12 eggs for like 12 containers? But now I understand why, because it's like you fill it up so much with the other stuff that 12 eggs I don't think would fit with the cottage cheese added too. So yes, 9 eggs. We'll see how it does, but I think that's gonna probably be perfect. Okay, that is pretty perfect. Like, good ratios. So this is wanting me to get fancy to make it, I think, like very much like the Starbucks way of doing it, where it says to fill up water and put it at the bottom to create steam. And you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Normally I don't get this fancy, but since you guys are here, I'll do it. So it says just to fill a large baking dish half the way with water. All right, I can do that. And it's not dirtying any dishes because it'll just be water in it. So what that'll do in the oven is it'll create steam to, I think in theory, make these a bit more moist. So we'll see how it turns out. And then it says to bake in a 325 degree preheated oven for 23 minutes. So let's see how it goes. All right, the egg bites are done. Full disclosure, while these were baking, I had to go run an errand. And so I put Dylan, my husband, in charge. And he said they took a lot longer to cook than 20 minutes. So I don't know what the full time ended up being, but just something to keep in mind. I don't know if it's because I had the water in there with the steam bath, maybe like that made a difference. I'm not really sure, but they look good and well cooked now, and they smell really good. So before pushing record, I went all the way around with a knife just to kind of loosen them up, but I'm really hungry. I'm gonna give this one a try. These are solid, really good. It tastes super good. They're just like ham, cheese, and green onion egg bites. I don't really notice the cottage cheese. Yeah, I can't really even tell that it's in there. So great way to get more protein. These are really good. I'm gonna just take all of them out, put them in this little dish to keep in the fridge so we can just microwave them and heat them and eat them up whenever we want. But these are really good. Well, thank you for joining me today on my food/meal prepping experience. I hope you got some really good ideas that you can take back to the kitchen with you. I am really trying to build my YouTube platform. I want to create more videos like this and other ones that I've been doing as well. And so if you could like and subscribe to my channel, that really helps me in getting a larger reach and giving me the opportunity to do more videos like these. So subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you can get notifications when I have new videos like these come out. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in my next video.